Welcome to our latest explainer. So today we're unpacking Brian Featherston Hawes' fascinating book, The Long View. Now, we're taking The Long View today not as your standard one-of-the-mill career guide. Actually, it's more like a precise time design manual. If you're an exhausted, high-functioning professional who is constantly racing against the clock, well, The Long View is exactly what you need to restructure your reality. We're going to look closely at who profits from your tragically short horizon and who truly pays the profound cost when you sprint blind through your best years. Because in Brian Featherston Hawes' framework, true power demands that you step back and master the long view. Here's a challenge for you. Try to hear out the long view before you instantly jump to defend your calendar. I mean, think about it. What if your burnout isn't actually a workload problem at all? What if, it's a time horizon problem born out of this time-blind ambition? You might firmly believe the core issue is just the relentless pace of your industry, or the sheer volume of emails, or the demands of your clients. But the mechanics underneath all that are much deeper and significantly more structural than simply having too many meetings on a Tuesday. Your calendar is just the symptom. Your horizon is the disease. All right, moving into Section 1, Ignition, the time-blind trap. You see, the simple habit of constantly overperforming creates a massive adrenal debt. And the truly dangerous part is that this debt completely masquerades as genuine productivity. Your body literally starts to treat tomorrow as a constant threat. I mean, your jaw tightens before the email even arrives. Your shoulders carry the weight of a crisis that hasn't even happened yet. You're completely confusing biological strain with strategic adaptation, convincing yourself that simply surviving the day means you're winning the decade. So, what exactly is time-blind ambition? Basically, it's a drive that literally cannot see beyond the nearest verdict. Having a super short time horizon like this keeps your nervous system perpetually on call. It turns every single hour into a courtroom where you're constantly awaiting judgment from a manager, a client, or even the market. And that persistent low-grade fear, it forces 1,000 small obediences out of you every single day. You answer a little too fast, you accept a little too much, you constantly narrow your breath, you're trading your long-term strategic clarity for the brief, hollow relief of an empty inbox, leaving you completely vulnerable to anyone who manufactures a false emergency. A short horizon makes every offer look urgent. That is absolutely crucial to grasp. I really want to challenge you to recognize that your very next move might actually be way too small to deserve your entire nervous system. I mean, think about astronomy for a second. A comet only looks sudden and brilliantly fast when it's incredibly close to the sun, burning off its own substance just to be seen. But most of its actual work, its true trajectory, happens way out in the dark, silent and unobserved. True power is stored in long, quiet orbits, not in frantic daily reactions to someone else's timeline. Okay, Section 2 is called The Wound, Identity Leakage. We really need to explore the psychological depth of this trap, because this is the exact moment where professional work stops being just a series of tasks and unfortunately morphs into a constant, exhausting blood test of your own self-worth. It's this invisible transition from doing the work to literally becoming the work, where every piece of feedback feels like a ruling on your fundamental value as a human being. Identity leakage. It's essentially the absolute collapse of your work performance into your self-worth. If you're validating your entire existence through every single reply and feeling personally exiled by every delay, wow, I really want to validate that immense pain for you. Your exhaustion isn't a sign of true weakness. It's the direct result of an unchosen, suffocating proximity to immediate demands. You aren't failing. You're simply standing far too close to the noise, allowing the daily friction of the office to grind directly against your soul. Rest might soften the symptom, sure, but it will absolutely not repair the time model. Think back to a really specific moment recently, a time you said yes to an assignment while your body was just screaming no. Remember that tightness in your chest? Well, put this lens on that memory. Was that really your ambition talking, or honestly, was it just fear wearing a clean shirt? A weekend getaway or an extra hour of sleep cannot fix a structural flaw in how you value your own capacity. You're essentially trying to put a bandage on a collapsing bridge. When you just blindly obey the nearest demand for long enough, sure, the career keeps moving, but the person underneath, they get less and less room to even exist. The neck becomes a calendar, the stomach becomes a forecast, and as Featherston Hawes implies, the eyes become two unpaid invoices. Just let the visceral reality of that polished exhaustion settle completely in your mind for a moment. This is what it costs to pay for someone else's urgency with your own identity. Which brings us to Section 3, The Descent, Building Career Fuel. Featherston Hawes proposes this 45-year system that demands you prioritize stored energy over frantic, immediate motion. We've basically reached the architectural floor of this philosophy now. Because if we want to dismantle the anxiety of the short horizon, we have to construct a mechanism that relies on accumulation rather than constant expenditure. Let's consider looking at a career as a ladder versus a career as an ecosystem. The whole ladder metaphor falsely promises this clean, endless upward motion, right? It makes you stare up, panic about the next rung, and basically view everyone around you as an obstacle. The ecosystem, however, it's a whole different ballgame. It's much more profound and deeply resilient. It demands a rigorous understanding of seasons, deep soil, and hidden nourishment. It forces you to study the roots of what you're actually building, knowing that true growth often requires periods of dormancy, lateral movement, and quiet stabilization beneath the surface. And the necessary foundation of this ecosystem is what we call career fuel. That's the stored capacity created by your skills, your relationships, and your experiences. You've got to understand the absolute strategic necessity of this fuel. It has immense value precisely because it sits in reserve. It waits for the weather to change, allowing you to cross massive distances without having to constantly beg the wind. It transforms you from a fragile entity that needs perfect conditions to thrive into a self-sustaining engine capable of weathering severe industry winters. We can actually break this down into 3 practical forms of fuel. First, skill range. This is your usable capacity, what your hands can literally do when the fancy job title suddenly breaks and the corporate shield drops. Second, relationship fuel. Now, this isn't just casual networking or contact hoarding. It's the actual tested trust that answers your calls in hard weather. And finally, experience fuel, which is basically your scar tissue made intelligent. Relying on just one form makes your entire machine shake under pressure. Skill without deep trust is incredibly brittle, and trust without hard skill leaves you fatally exposed when performance is actually required. A brass clock hand moves once. Almost nothing visible happens. It doesn't beg for attention, and it definitely doesn't panic when the room ignores it. Deep practice, the real accumulation of career fuel, is exactly like this. It trusts the hidden mechanism over the shallow applause of the room. It serves a timeline far larger than today's mood. It is the steady, undeniable march of compounded effort. Moving on to Section 4, the turn, architecture over motion. I want to challenge you right now to stop asking which task proves you to the world and start asking which structure actually preserves you. The superficial glamour completely drains out of the equation right here, and that's exactly when real, uncompromising judgment can step in. This is the pivot from merely surviving your workload to actively designing your endurance. So, architecture over motion. This relies on the pretty unforgiving principle that systems carry what effort cannot. Remember, speed can only amplify direction once that direction actually exists. Without a load-bearing structure in your professional life, all your frantic motion is just a highly optimized way to avoid intelligent design. You're simply running faster on a treadmill you never even chose to step on, exhausting your reserves while physically staying exactly in place. Cost makes fantasy honest. You really have to start treating your future self as a creditor who is eventually, inevitably, going to collect. Every single time you overcommit just to prove your current worth to people who won't even remember your sacrifice, well, I want you to meticulously price that choice. What is the absolute cost in lost future stamina? What's the profound cost in lost professional range? You're basically borrowing peace from tomorrow to fund the panic of today. And this brings us to the ultimate binary dispute of our working lives, really. Extraction versus architecture. The old broken model dictates that success is extraction, burning yourself out for brief moments of applause. Notice the absolute calculated cruelty in that model. It only praises a person after the system has completely consumed them. Architecture, on the other hand, gets duration. It demands intelligent design long before the biological damage is done, making sure the builder actually outlasts the building. All right, Section 5, Resolution, the long view. We are finally bringing all these architectural pieces together into one massive paradigm shift. We're putting the concrete, foundational elements in place to permanently favor quiet endurance over loud display. This is exactly where we secure the perimeter around your time and really finalize the practice of seeing clearly. A meaningful life often changes at a speed vanity cannot respect. For the exhausted, high-functioning professional watching this explainer today, I want to offer you a colder but way more liberating mercy. You are not late. You are not falling behind. Actually, scratch that. You are simply under-designed. Your deep, bone-level fatigue is vital data, indicating a flawed system, not permanent proof of your self-worth. When you strip away the vanity of speed, you discover the profound leverage of patience. And this patient compounding creates what we call slow leverage. Protecting, quiet, seemingly unimpressive work builds up your range. And range is literally the most profound, calm ability you can possibly possess. It's an absolute superpower in a frantic industry. It gives you the quiet authority to look directly at a shiny, urgent trap and decline it entirely, without a single ounce of panic or regret, because you know your trajectory is totally secure. So name the fuel you're building, name the debt you're hiding. You need to internalize this practice immediately. Refuse any future professional offer that only serves to feed your immediate panic. Ensure everything you willingly say yes to actively builds the permanent structure that lets you move effectively and with profound intention for decades to come. Stop hiding the adrenal debt, drag it out into the light, and dismantle it. Access your personal growth map at upgowise.com. Use it as a clear, completely uncompromising mirror. Let that map show you exactly what your frantic speed has been desperately trying to protect all these years. Look honestly at what your future self can no longer afford to fund, and make the quiet, radical decision to change your structural geometry. Let Brian Featherston Hall's framework permanently dismantle your time-blind ambition. Stop letting someone else's manufactured urgency design your life. Let the realization of what truly builds enduring career feel sink deep into your architecture. Slow is the highest leverage.